And I'm going to try to go really quickly because I want to give Mariana time to kind of show you the retention alert process and answer any questions that you have about that, because that is so very important that we get feedback from you all as early as possible if a student is in any kind of distress, and that happens through that retention process, that retention alert process, and Mariana is going to go over that. Just a couple things that I wanted to go over and remind you. With the changes from going from a total virtual online to kind of beginning to transition back to face, I just wanted to give you a couple of updates. We are opening the residence hall. We have 50 students in the hall. We anticipate having upwards of 60 by the time the semester opens. So we are going to have a residence hall presence on campus. If you are on campus, you're going to feel and see that. We are opening the student lounge, so that will open very soon. We are trying to rehire student ambassadors. So if you have dynamic students in your class that you see and that you know, please refer them to Mariceli Vargas, because we are desperately trying to get that position filled. It's so important for us that students have a student mentor in so many different ways. So please get us that information. We have reopened the academic studio for face-to-face tutoring. We've been doing online tutoring for quite a while now. We will always continue that. So regardless of whether you're working with a student in another state, in another city, or in an online class, or here on campus, we will always be able to help online. But we opened our face-to-face tutoring back up in April. And we are beginning to get students back in that capacity. And we're seeing that students really want to have that connection, kind of like what Dean Anderson talked about, the importance of that connection. I think students are desperate for that. So that's really how students are reaching out to us. It is in that way. I do want to remind any of you that teach a career technical education class that we still have Perkins funding available for textbook lending, child care assistance, and those are unbelievable resources for students who qualify. Our new success specialist who coordinates that program is Morgan Powell. She's happy to make a presentation to classes. She's happy to come and talk to students to answer your questions. We also are going to be offering transportation vouchers starting in the fall. I don't know the date yet. So students can not only qualify for textbook lending, childcare, but also transportation assistance as well. So bear all that in mind. I did want to give you just a brief, I think a lot of people have talked about, us trying to reopen. I think Dean Anderson said, what if we have to go back to an SVL type setup? One of the things that my area manages is COVID, and I am telling you, we will have COVID cases into the fall semester. I will shut some of your classes down that are face-to-face because of an exposure or a positive case in a classroom. So please have a plan for what you intend to do if I shut a class down. Are you going to go online? Are you going to go SVL temporarily? Because it will take us a few days to work through what we have to work through with that class. There are 3 clearances that have to happen when a student in a face-to-face situation either tests positive or reports an exposure. The faculty member has to be cleared, and that's going to happen through Human Resources through Jackie Thomas. Your space has to be cleared. That means it has to be deep cleaned, and that's going to happen through plant and facilities. And then third, every student in that class has to be cleared, and that's the one that takes time. And so I do need, as soon as you know that there is an exposure or a positive case, you need to send to my area a class roster with email addresses. Really, I need it within an hour of you being notified of this, because this is incredibly time consuming, because we have to then reach out to every student in that class to alert them what has happened, and then get responses back from them to determine what we need to be doing with them. And it takes a while to do that. Those of you who have worked with my area on these kinds of issues, and there's several of you in this who have worked with me because you've gone through this process, you will get a daily spreadsheet from us with all the students listed and where we are on them, and ultimately telling you who all has been cleared and who has not been cleared. But under no circumstance can you restart a class if the vast majority of your students haven't been cleared. And you certainly, if we do clear the class, but you have a student that hasn't been cleared, you cannot allow them into the class. You're going to have to ask them not to be a part of that. So, but the big thing I want you to do is have a plan, because I guarantee you, we are going to shut classes down. And so I need you to have a plan and be prepared for that reality, because it is going to happen. And I do anticipate it having trickle down. If I have a student who's in 12 hours, he's exposed in one class, well, that's actually 4 classes that I'm going to have to deal with that student is in. And then if one of those students is exposed and starts having symptoms, it could affect another 4 classes. So please have a backup plan. Welcome week, please come. It starts next week. The big one is the welcome bash, which is Thursdays. Please come out. It's going to be outside. I know I've scared everybody with COVID stuff, but it is going to be outside, and we are trying to keep our distance, and I hope you'll come out. Yeah, we have a lot of tables going to be there. We're welcoming students, but we're also welcoming you all back to campus as well. So come and participate. The retention alerts are very important. Mariana is going to talk to you about that. Guys, the most important thing that you can do for us is, as soon as you realize that a student is in distress, please fill out an alert. Mariana does send you by email twice during the course of the semester reminders to submit those to us, but the earlier that we get them, the better. I always get questions, well, can I just do the alert that's in Blackboard? No, you can't. You have to do this alert, and the reason is because it is what is linked to everything that we link it to, in terms of grades, in terms of everything else that we do, in terms of a way to communicate with the students and all of that. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her talk to you about the retention alert process and how it works.
Julie, before she starts, there's a question about, will vaccination status have an impact on faculty clearance or student class clearance?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. And I'm sorry I didn't address that. It can. We are not allowed to ask if anybody has had a vaccination. When we get the self-reports in, what we do tell people is, if they would like to self-disclose to us, they are happy to do that. You need to understand, though, symptoms will trump a vaccination. If you report that you are sick and not feeling well, or if a student reports that they are sick and not feeling well and they are having symptoms, but they also report that they have been vaccinated, the symptoms are going to trump the vaccination, and we will go by the symptoms, and we will ask that you quarantine as a result of that. That is the way HR will handle faculty and staff issues as well. So it can, but it also, we will look at symptoms, and that's why we still send the self-report and ask everybody to answer the series of questions that we do. Did that answer the question? I'm hoping it did. Okay, awesome. Let me turn it, Mariana, take it over, and I'm going to step out and let her do her part now.
Okay, good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Can you see my screen too?
Yep.
Okay, like Julie mentioned, when we receive early alerts, it's very important for faculty members to submit early alerts, because we look for patterns. Well, what is going on with students. And as you can see on my screen, I have an example of what we use to look for these patterns. These are our quarterly retention alert reports. And as you can see, one of the top retention alerts that we get is missing work. Once we see these patterns, we come up with emails, we follow up with the students, we send them a text message. Charlotte has created a series of follow-up emails that we send to students. So once we get the early alert from the faculty, we create a report and we follow up with the students. This is why it's important for faculty members to submit their early alerts once we send out the email, or whenever you feel that the student is having issues, you can access the form through the faculty and staff forms. It's very easy to find. You just go to faculty and staff forms, and you go to student success retention alert. Now you can either submit an individual alert, or you can submit a mass alert, which it has in the website. There's step-by-step instructions on how to submit a mass alerts for your class. And it all depends what browser you are using. It's easier. I found out that it's easier to use Firefox when doing the auto early alert. This process was created by one of our math professors, Professor Burrow, and I have found that it's very useful. I know some faculty members, sometimes they have issues uploading the gradebook, but if there are any issues, you can always call me, or you can check with Erica Burton. She'll be able to help the faculty members that are having issues with this auto alert process. Like Julie said, we always email professors at the 33 and 60% time frames of the course. We email them and let them know to submit any alerts that they have. We follow up with the student. The student gets an immediate notification saying that the professor submitted an early alert. On the email itself, it includes the course, the reason, and any notes that the professor has submitted on that retention alert. We ask professors that when you submit an early alert, add notes on what can the student do to mitigate that problem that they're having. Once the alert is created, we keep it, the alert stays open for 180 days. And we use this alerts to create the success scores for the students. We have we created a formula to track students. We give them 5 points for 3 or more alerts. If they have 3 or more alerts, they have 5 points on their deducted from the success score. And that tells us here in the SSP area that we need to follow up with the students. Professors and any staff that has access to TargetX, they can go in there and look at student success scores. They can look at the retention alert report. We have just started emailing this report to the faculty members, to the directors and department chairs every Thursday for them to view any alerts that come in every week. And I wanted to show you, these are the follow-up emails that we do with students. We have different follow-up emails that we're creating based on these reports that we have created. Like I said, anybody can view these reports. If a department wants to view, create their own dashboard for their faculty alerts or retention alerts, they can go in here and create a report. But as you can see, for the past, I want to say 4 years, since 2019, since we started using TargetX, we have noticed that missing work is the #1 reason why students receive an alert. It goes all the way back, all the way up to December 21st. You can see that that's the #1 reason why students receive a retention alert. Now, the second reason we can say it can be lack of participation. Now, if you feel that the students are after submitting a retention alert, you feel that the students still having issues, you can always give us a call and we can follow up with the student. This retention report that we send out every week, Charlotte and Morgan, our advice success coordinator and success program specialist, they are charged with following up with the students if they see anything out of the ordinary on this report. So we always have students following, staff following up with students. This is why it's important for faculty members to submit their retention alert using our process so we can follow up with the students and we'll be able to assist the students. That is all I have. If you have any questions.
Can I just make one point? Please, faculty, the retention alert goes across semesters, and it is used by all faculty. It's not just here at Central Campus. It's online faculty. It's worldwide faculty. It is important that you check your CTCD email and not block these type of emails, because if you do, then obviously you won't get the notices from Charlotte from Mariana that are coming in about this. And we do follow up with you quite a bit on these issues. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is I got a question, I think, in the chat about what if a student, I think we're going back to COVID, what if a student has symptoms but doesn't self-report, and this is always a concern. We send, one of the communications that we send to all students at the start of every start term is information about checking their status and whether or not they should be on campus and whether or not they should check, and that it is a requirement for them to do that every day before coming to campus. If in your classes you can make announcements, we have on all the buildings about doing self-checks and all of that. If you can always make an announcement that if a student is not feeling good, they should not be in class, and that kind of thing, Can I force a student to self-report? No, I cannot. Can we kick a student out at this point? No, we cannot. Can you encourage a student, though, to, if they're not feeling good, to leave and to not be in class? Certainly. I don't want you to direct it individually to a student. It should just be a part of your, I think you need to have a COVID discussion at the start. If you are teaching a face-to-face class, you need to have a COVID discussion at the start of your class, the first few days, just to kind of say what the expectation, just to be a good class member, a good community member, and what that looks like. You can always, if you have a concern about a student in one of your classes, reach out to SSP if it's a student, and we will do the follow-up with that particular student. I hope I answered your question.